Hey guys, welcome to my channel Total Angrezi by Vidushi. Do subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon to never miss an update, and do give me a thumbs up if you like the video. In this video, we are going to do the poem A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. The poet is a Welsh poet who wrote a lot of short stories. And since his childhood, he had decided that he wanted to be a poet when he grew up, which is what he did. A Tiger in the Zoo is one of his very beautiful poems. And many of you, if you are listening to this video right now during the phase of lockdown, you will be able to connect with the feeling that the poet wants to express through this poem. You'll understand the message of this poem very easily if you are listening to this during this lockdown. Let's begin with a line-wise explanation. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet, in his quiet rage. He, oh here, by he, the poet means the tiger, which is a personification. He stalks in his vivid stripes. The vivid stripes here are these deep, bright colored stripes that are there on a tiger. The few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet. Pads of velvet is a metaphor which refers to the tiger's soft paws. And in his quiet rage is anger. Why do you think the tiger is outraged? Why do you think the tiger is angry? The tiger is angry because he is locked up inside a zoo. Are we liking the feeling of being locked up? We're not able to see the people we used to see every day. We are missing all the things and all the people, our friends, the malls, the movies, schools, everything. We're missing all of it. We're not liking the feeling of being locked up. How do you think the tiger feels when it is locked up for its entire lifetime? So this is why the poet is connecting with the tiger in this poem, the feelings of the tiger in this poem. And he says that there are very few steps in this cage, just like we have very few steps to walk from our living room to our kitchen to our bedroom, and that's all. Just like that, the tiger in the zoo, kept in this cage, can walk only a few steps quietly in his rage because there is nothing he can do but to keep walking inside and take rest inside. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where plump deer pass. This particular stanza represents the act of a tiger when it would live in a natural habitat. What is the tiger's natural habitat? It is the jungle, it is the wild. The tiger is supposed to live in the wilderness, where we have seen in a lot of our animal channels like Discovery and Animal Planet, we see the way a tiger attacks his prey. So lurking is hiding, and then the sudden run and the sudden jump, and its favorite animal is the deer, especially when they come to drink water. And this scene represents that, and the poet says that this is what a tiger should be allowed to do, as opposed to being put up inside a concrete cell, inside a concrete jail. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. What else should he be doing? He should be snarling. Snarling is that sound growl that he makes with his teeth. He should be snarling around those houses at the jungle's edge. Most of these jungles, they usually have the edge of a village, which is why we hear a lot of stories in the news wherein some of the wild animals enter the village, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Why do you think the tiger does that? He does that because the tiger is an animal of power. He wants to express his power amongst people and let them know that they cannot hurt him. And you will see that unless hungry, the tiger will never hurt anybody intentionally. That's not what he likes to do. It's just how he's being made, and that's what he does to fulfill his hunger. But right now, he's baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village only to show his power. And that power is stolen when he stays inside the zoo. But he's locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. He's ignoring the visitors. Does he have any interest in the people who pay tickets and go and watch him in the zoo? No, because that's not the life he would want. If we had the choice Would we stay locked inside? We are staying locked inside because the situation demands. Such is the case of a tiger in the zoo, that he is locked in a concrete cell, and all the strength that he could show by going into a village, if by mistake he went in there to terrorize them, to scare them, so that they wouldn't hurt him or provoke him, none of that is possible inside this concrete cell. And all he does is he stalks the length of his cage, which means he walks from one corner of the cage to another corner of the cage, ignoring his visitors. This is a very common sight if you've gone to a zoo, which many of you might have. You would see that this is one of the very common sights that you'll see of a tiger, that they would just walk from one end to the other because they don't know what else to do, because that's not where they're meant to be. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his eyes, brilliant eyes, at the brilliant stars. Somewhere or the other, we can all relate to this feeling too at this point of time, where all we do is we stare outside from our balconies, from our windows, at the stars, at the freedom. The tiger is also doing that. Outside, he is staring at his freedom, which he could have had, but he doesn't have. He hears the last voice at night, which is the patrolling cars, and after everybody is gone and in the silence of the night, he stares with his brilliant eyes, which also shine because of the moonlight and the brilliant stars. And if in case, if he could express to us, then I think with those eyes he would be expressing and begging for freedom to live the life that a tiger is born to have, which is in the wild. So this is a beautiful poem of 5 stanzas with 4 lines each. Something that you should know is the rhyme scheme of this poem is ABCB. It's a very simple poem, yet very, very meaningful. Let's run through a quick summary of this poem. This summary, the poem "The Tiger in a Zoo" is written by Leslie Norris, and through this poem, the poet wants to express the feelings of a tiger that is locked up behind bars in a zoo, which he feels is not the right place, and I'm sure most of us agree. In this poem, you can see that there are 2 settings. The poet brings before us 2 settings. One setting is that of the tiger in the zoo, which is how the poem begins, where he speaks about how he is outraged, the tiger is outraged, and walking slowly with his velvet-like paws, with his soft paws, walks from one end to the other end. Then as the stanza goes ahead, and the second stanza, he shifts the setting from that of the zoo into the forest, where he shows what kind of a life the tiger lives when he is free, when he has freedom. He stalks, he lurks behind high blades of grass, and then he kills his favorite prey, which is drinking water, which is the deer. And then by mistake, if they move out of the jungle zones and go to the corners and on the edges where there are setups of villages, then they show their power, they show their strength by snarling at the villagers, and they attack only when provoked. But what happens when these tigers are put into the zoo? They lose this power, and so all they can do is walk from one corner to the other, have food that they are fed. A tiger finds the thrill in their life by hunting. But here, the tiger is not allowed to do that. He's thrown food and he has to eat what he gets when he gets, and that's all he can do inside. And so he ignores the visitors, because I don't think, even the poet doesn't think, that the tiger likes the sight of people coming and paying money to see him, while all he would want from his life was freedom. And in the night, what would the tiger do? He'll just listen to the voices of the patrolling cars, of the men that are guarding the zoo or the animals, and he would stare with his twinkling eyes at the bright twinkling stars, hoping for freedom which he does not have. Before we move ahead to the question answer section, subscribe to our channel Total and Crazy. If you're new here, hit the bell icon, and you could also follow us on our Facebook and Instagram handles. Here are 3 questions. More or less, all the questions that form from this poem are going to be twisted, but they would have somewhere or the other the same answer. You can find all answers to these questions in the summary and in the line explanations, only if you know how to frame them according to how the questioner wants. How is the tiger's life contrasting in the zoo as opposed to its natural habitat? You can draw a contrast. You know the life of the zoo is very boring for him. He ignores the visitors. He is outraged, he is angry, and to express his anger, all he can do is walk from one end of the cage to another end of the cage and just hope for freedom, while his life in the natural habitat is much more lively and just how it is meant to be, where he gets to hunt his own prey, where he gets to show his power, where he gets to scare people to show that that he is indeed one animal that can live in pride if let alone to do. What is the message of this poem? The message of this poem is that every animal, every human being should get to live the life that they were born to live. That when you put people in a lock and key where they don't want to be, then it's only going to lead to sadness and you're not going to like the sight of it. It is a different thing that the kind of lockdown we are in right now is more for our safety. But this kind of locking, the wild animals in a zoo, when they can have a life of their own, and to see that they're not getting to do what they're meant to do. Like, for example, a lot of wild elephants also are tamed to carry people from here and there, which is not their life's purpose. Our life's purpose is something else. If we are forced to do something else, wouldn't we get angry? Wouldn't we get outraged? Wouldn't we also get frustrated and hope for freedom to do what we want to do? This is exactly the message of this poem, that by drawing a reference to a tiger in the zoo, the poet wants to convey that nobody is happy where they are not meant to be, and that brings out this very beautiful message that freedom is of great importance and one should be allowed to do what they want to do as far as it is in safe measures. Express your opinion about keeping wild animals in cages. I strongly disagree. Although you could agree, but you have to give valid points to your answers. A lot of these questions will repeat in twisted forms. They'll ask you to explain the lines. They'll ask you about what you think about wild animals and so on. So you can go on and explain in your own words. That's all for this video. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Do subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon to never miss an update, and do give me a thumbs up if you like the video.